You are watching Area DMG.
Erica is awesome. I just want to give a testimonial to how awesome she is, and how much I love her and respect her, and how talented she is, and what a kind, lovely, lovely person she is. That's all I have to say.
We love you, Erica.
Aw, thank you. I love Karen. Karen's great. Oh, she's running off though. She's just said all those nice things about me, and then she's like, I have to leave the room because stuff. I don't know which one works. I guess this one's not on. Oh, now it's on. Okay. I'm not a very loud person, so I need a microphone. Surprisingly, like you'd think with Kill a Kill, I'd be like super loud, but I'm not. Hi guys, I'm Erica Mendez. I'm a voice actress. I'm originally from Chicago, but I've been living in Los Angeles for about 5-6 years now. I've been doing voiceover for about 4 years now. I've lost track at this point. It's hard to like believe that I've been doing it for like just that little time because I've been lucky enough to do so many awesome things. I did Ryuko, Kill a Kill, pretty early on in my career, so that was like within like the first year, I think. So it's pretty awesome. This is technically a Kill a Kill panel, but if you guys have other things you want to ask, just because I don't have like a normal Q&A, you're more than welcome to ask about anything I've been in. If you don't know other things I've been in, I am Gon in Hunter x Hunter. A lot of people don't realize that, even though it's been a year since we started recording that show. I'm Deanne in Seven Deadly Sins, Nico in Love Live, what else? Sailor Uranus in Sailor Moon, Yuki in Sword Art Online, Eleanor in Tales of Berseria, and so on and so forth. But yeah, if you have any questions, we'll start off with you.
First of all, you made me cry in the dub, but I was also like,
Which one?
Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online, yeah.
I was wondering, when you were told about Kill a Kill, I'm actually curious, what were you given? What kind of information were you given about the series before you actually voice acted? And what was your opinion of the series just when you started learning more about it?
Yeah, I actually started watching it because it was kind of one of those shows that I was like, they've got to dub this. Like, there's no way they're not going to dub this. So, and I had already started working with the company that was going to dub it, so I was like, just doing a little research, I decided to check it out. Usually I'm more into like slice of life anime, so I wasn't sure if Kill a Kill was totally going to be my speed, but I kept watching it, and I'm just like, every episode I'd just be like, what is this? What is this thing? It just keeps going. It's like a train wreck, but I can't look away. But it's like a good, I don't want to say good train wreck, that doesn't make sense.
It was a beautiful train wreck.
It was
I mean, that's still like, you don't want to use the word beautiful with the train wreck, because that's not, I don't know. But anyway, I mean, you guys know what I mean. Like, it's just something that you can't stop watching it just because you need to see what happens to see how things like make sense together. Because at first, I tell people this all the time, like, it's not, if you haven't seen Kill a Kill, it's something you're either gonna really like or you're really gonna hate. It's not something that's really in between for people, I feel like. Like, I don't know anybody that's like, oh, Kill a Kill's okay. You know, they either really like it or they really hate it. And I can totally see why, because at face value, Kill a Kill is a very, like, fan servicey show until you get to the further episodes and you realize that all that fan service kind of has a meaning to it, because it's very, a lot of people compare it to like fascism and stuff like that, and it's just very like a fashion-based show. So like all the outfits have special meanings for each character and stuff like that, and just how Ryuko progresses throughout her journey and how the other characters, you know, grow and stuff like that. And what I like about it is that there's like even fan service for guys and girls, because like even the guys kind of get naked too, you know, so it's like, oh, if you're into that, then, you know, you like that stuff or whatever. It's all there. Kill a Kill's got everything for you if you're into that stuff. But yeah, I had started watching it before I actually got the audition, and like I said, I was kind of like, I wasn't sure what to think of it at first, but I kept watching it, and I just couldn't stop, and I got the audition, and you know, ended up getting cast as Ryuko, of course. So it was still airing as we started recording, so I hadn't quite finished it yet because it wasn't completely done. And so I knew what I was getting into, because I think it was up to like episode 20 something or like in the late teens. So I didn't really have to have too much explained to me, and it wasn't like, other than the bath scene, which I didn't have anything to do with anyway. So it didn't really bother me, honestly. But, you know, I'm glad I was a part of it. Okay. Nice question. Anybody else have questions? Yes.
Well, I do have to say one thing. I kind of like Ryoga with her cool scissor blade.
Yeah, isn't it cool?
Huh? I wonder if she tried playing guitar.
She had a guitar case, but I guess that's where her scissor blade was, huh? I don't know, I feel like I could see Ryuko playing guitar. That just kind of makes sense to me. Like a cool acoustic guitar. Just kind of like randomly playing it in like some kind of street alley or something like that. She seems like the kind of girl, right? Thank you, nice question. Other questions? Yes, Ryuko.
How did you get into voice acting?
How did I get into voice acting? I feel like that's the question that always comes up, right? Let's see. I have always been interested in cartoons and video games. Like, I actually was a fan of anime. I still am a fan of anime. I started getting into it. Well, I don't want to say I started getting into it at 13. I think 13 is just, like around that age, is when I started realizing what anime was. Like I said, I've always loved cartoons. You know, I watched like the old My Little Pony, and I was big into Simpsons way back when it was actually good. And like all those Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that. And then like I'd watch, you know, Speed Racer and Thundercats and stuff with my dad when I was little. I don't think Thundercats was an actual anime, but it kind of felt like it at the time. But yeah, that was, I would say Speed Racer and like Voltron and stuff were my first experiences with anime before I knew what it was. But when Toonami was around, that first run that it had, that's when I started really getting into it. And so around that time, I think, is when I realized that voice acting was kind of a thing. And like, especially when, because like I said, I was big into video games too, and I was huge into the Final Fantasy series at a certain point in my life. And it was around the time when I think Final Fantasy X came out, which is like the first big Final Fantasy game that had voiceover. So I started looking up stuff on the internet, as you do when you're a kid in the 90s and early 200s and stuff like that, or 2000s, 200s. That's I just let go a secret of me being a vampire. Just kidding. Where am I? Yeah, so I started looking it up online, and I started finding other people that were interested in voiceover. So I joined like online communities. And I do fan projects, audio dramas and stuff like that. Or I just like record my voice and just upload it to the internet. And you know, it's just a community effort, and people would be like, oh, this sounds cool, or like, you know, maybe you should work on this a little bit. So that was kind of my first experience with it. It was just a hobby at first when I was a teenager. And then I was a very shy child, so the online stuff was kind of like just a godsend for me because I didn't have to talk to anybody really, you know, in person. But then I started realizing that it was just something that I wanted to do more, so I needed to get over my fears. So I ended up, finally in my senior year of high school, I took a few acting classes, and just to kind of to get over like stage fright and stuff like that. And it slowly worked. I think what really helped it was I did waitressing for like 5 years. And that really helped me get out of my shell, because you have to talk to people for that, you know? You have to talk on the phone, and I had terrible phone anxiety. So it was a lot of that building up to kind of like help me get a little bit more confidence when it came to public speaking and stuff like that. So, like I said earlier, I'm from Chicago, so I was doing all that in Chicago, Chicago's not like a huge voice acting place unless you're into commercial stuff, which I feel like it makes you the most money, but it's the most boring part of it. So I wasn't like into the professional scene in Chicago, but eventually when I finished college, I was dating a voice actor from New York, so we did a long distance relationship, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna move to California to further my career. And I was like, okay, I've got a degree in animation, so I'll follow you, because if I go through animation, like California is the place I want to be anyway. And it would have been cool if I could do voiceover, but I wasn't like, I was fine just watching him do his thing, you know? And if stuff happened, stuff happened. And then luckily stuff did happen, because I had a lot of friends that were getting into the industry at the time who knew what I could do. So they would like recommend me for auditions and stuff like that. And I didn't book anything for like the first year I lived there, and it was like, you know, okay, whatever, it's fine. But it wasn't until was it? It was an indie game that I did called Dust and Elysian Tale. If anybody's played that, it's a very good game. It's usually really cheap. It's kind of like a Metroidvania-ish game. It's really cool. And I play a small character in that. That was kind of my first, like, sort of semi-professional role, technically. Then I started, after that I started taking more classes in the LA area, and I kind of happened upon these classes with Tony Oliver, which, if you don't know Tony Oliver, he's been working in the industry for many, many years. He was the director on the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. He was Lupin the Third, the original Lupin the Third. He was Minato in Naruto. He was Ulquiorra in Bleach, and so on and so forth. And so I took a few classes with him, and I guess he liked me enough to recommend me to the studio he mainly works with, Bang Zoom Studios. And I didn't hear much from them for a while. I got an audition for League of Legends, which was really cool, because at the time it was like my favorite video game, and it was on my birthday too, like that I got that audition, so it was super cool. I didn't end up booking it, but it was still like a really neat experience for me to go in and audition for that game on my birthday. So I didn't hear anything from them for a while, so I kind of started getting a little discouraged, and then they brought me in at some point for Walla, which is background voices. So like if you hear, for stuff that isn't something that they're able to keep from the Japanese track, they'll bring in people, and this is the only time in anime that you'll record with other people, is for these background scenes. So it's like, if you're in a school cafeteria, or if you're in a street or something like that, you'll hear all these little voices. That's what Walla is. They'll bring in people specifically for that, just kind of like talk about whatever random stuff depending on what the scene is. And so I did one of those. Again, didn't hear anything for a while, so I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that was just a little fleeting thing that I did. And then my boyfriend, who was already working with Bang Zoom Studios a little bit, got this audition for a game called Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures. And what that game was it was a game based off a show that they had recorded in Canada, but they didn't want to record the game in Canada, so they brought it to Los Angeles. Excuse me. They brought it to Los Angeles and wanted voice matches for the TV show. So my boyfriend was like, hey, you've worked with them before, kind of, they know who you are, so I'm gonna ask if you can audition because I think you could do some of these characters. So he asked, and they were nice enough to let me audition, which they totally did not have to, but they did. And I sent my auditions for Pac and Pinky, and did my very best. And they liked my audition enough that they sent me another audition that same week. And that was for the anime adaptation of Treasure Island, which was weird. But I got to audition for the main character, another young boy character. And within that same week, I think I got cast in both. And so I played Pac-Man in Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, and I played Jim Hawkins in a Treasure Island anime, which was really crazy. Because I mean, playing Pac-Man, like who gets to say that they played the iconic video game character, you know, of Pac-Man. It's like if you were to play like Mario or Sonic or, you know, whatever. And what was it? So yeah, I booked those two roles, and then from then on, I think they realized like exactly what I did as far as like, because a lot of what I practiced a lot when I was doing the online stuff was young boy voices, and that's just kind of what I like doing. Because my voice is kind of, my natural voice isn't very girly, like stereotypically girly, so that's just what I thought that I wanted to practice, just to kind of have my own little thing that I did. So I did that, and they just started casting me as young boys from then on, and it was really cool for the first year. Just, you know, sometimes they just give me roles, and it was really cool. That's where they had to kind of put me as far as, you know, things that they thought of me for. And I just kind of got in at the right place at the right time at that point, and you know, because they needed a lot of that at the time. Because I think within the first few months, I had probably gotten maybe 4 or 5 roles, which is pretty unusual. Like a lot of people, you'll hear a lot of stories of people having like really hard time, and like within the first few years, they won't have booked anything. But I got incredibly lucky. And again, right place at the right time. So it doesn't happen to a lot of people that I know. So That's one thing though, like about voiceover is that when you get into it, it's going to cost you a lot of money to get into the industry, mainly because of, you know, you want to do training, you always want to keep learning and taking classes, and you need to buy equipment for auditions and stuff like that, and you know, eventually you'll need demos, and those cost a lot of money. So it's a big investment, like more so than people think, I believe. And then you need a lot of patience because, like I said, I got really lucky. Most people it takes a while because it's not because necessarily people are bad at what they do. I know a lot of people that are very good that just don't get the chance because it's kind of like, you know, how people complain about, you know, so-and-so actor is always in anime, like they're in everything and they always use the same voice. Like I'm sure all of you have had somebody like that. Don't name any names, let's not name any names. But those people get cast because they're easy to work with and people know what they can do. And anime is very low budget. So they're gonna use people that they know can do the job and can do it quickly and well. So they'll keep using those same people, and so that's why I think a lot of people don't tend to get opportunities when they're getting into the voiceover industry at first, is because they don't have that, you know, that leg up to where they've been working with this studio or this company for so many years, you know, so. I kind of went off into a little weird tangent, but I pretty much answered your question. But yeah. Oh, are you fixing this for me? I'm kind of just pulling at it. I don't even like need the slack. I'm just like, I don't know, I just get a little, just need to do something with my hands sometimes. Yeah, any other questions? Yes.
So when you take on a role, how much inspiration do you take from the original foreign language sort of voiceover interpretation, and how much is it sort of a clean slate, sort of putting your own take onto it?
Yeah, for anime, obviously there's, you know, another voice there. They usually send us reference files. Either it'll be a voice clip or a video clip, because for, at least in LA, we get the privilege of seeing the shows. The shows have already been out, so we get to like see them, whereas in Texas, they're doing a lot of the broadcast stuff now, so they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's coming up. But yeah, we get voice clips in Los Angeles now. For me, it's worked out pretty well for me to where if I can copy the Japanese pitch, I'll try, and I'll send that as a take. If I have any other ideas, I'll usually send a separate take, because you can send up to like 2 or 3 takes for most places. But usually I just kind of default to a similar pitch to the Japanese, but it's more about the attitude of the character, I feel like. Sometimes just having the right pitch helps a little bit, because if they know you as an actor, they'll work with you on it if they think that the voice fits the character right. But sometimes the Japanese voice, I feel like, doesn't even fit the characters, so that's when I'll be like, I want to do something else. Like, she looks like she's, you know, she's 15 and she has the voice of a 30-year-old in the Japanese, or vice versa, so I'll just do whatever I feel fits the character. So it really depends on character to character. I don't have like a complete formula. I feel like lately though, I've been maybe not as closely following the Japanese, just because sometimes the voices are a little annoying. And like I said, my voice isn't super girly, so when I audition for girl characters, a lot of them are like, you know, super high pitched, and those, I feel like those kind of characters are the hardest for me to play, just because it takes so much energy out of my voice, and I get winded a lot faster for stuff like that. So I guess, yeah, the answer is sometimes I take inspiration, other times I just kind of do my own thing. Because that's the thing though, with voiceovers, we're not trying to like do imitations of the characters, we're just adapting it for an English audience. So, yeah. Yes?
Did you ever have any times during Kill la Kill that you were just completely wrecked afterwards just from screaming?
Oh yeah, that was like every session. Yeah, I honestly, like, most times after that show, I would just want to go home and take a nap. Because, I mean, Ryuko's the main character, she talks a lot in that show, and even when she's not yelling, she's just very, like, angry all the time, and it just kind of sometimes it would set me in a bad mood, so I just want to like go home and not talk to anybody and just kind of like lay on the couch or whatever. So and for that show we recorded like 2.5 weeks straight for each volume. So that's like 4 episodes in about 2 weeks, which is a lot, a lot of dialogue, honestly. And but yeah, especially the screaming stuff was particularly hard because I'm not a very loud person. I'm usually very reserved and quiet. If I'm more comfortable around people, I'll be a little bit louder. But even then, like I get a little bit exhausted. So and my voice wasn't properly trained when I did Kill a Kill. So it was a lot of learning how to take care of my voice and learning how to like hydrate properly and drink a lot of water and know which teas to drink. And like I found out about, if you haven't heard of it, voiceover people kind of refer to it as Hulk juice, but it's this Chinese cough syrup called Ninjiang Peipakoa. If you search Chinese cough syrup in Amazon, it'll pop up. Like that's just what people call it. It's just the easiest way to refer it to. And but there's a scene in particular. Has everyone seen all of Kill a Kill? Has anyone not seen all of Kill a Kill? You haven't. Does anyone care if I say anything about near the end of the show? I can be big. You care? Okay. You're too young to watch Kill a Kill. I'll be a little vague about it. So if you know the series, you'll know like what I'm talking about. But there's a point where she kind of is not herself near the end of the series when Ragyo comes in, and she's kind of like releasing herself from the state, and she's pulling the string out of her head. And so usually when we do screaming, we'll do like 2, maybe 3 takes. If we're lucky, we can do it on the first one, just because they didn't want to blow up my voice, especially for Ryuko, because literally all she does is scream and be angry most of the time. So this one, Alex Mondeva, the director, wanted it very particular. He wanted like a very particular like crescendo on the line. So he wanted it to start off like really seething and angry, and then it just gets louder and louder as she continues to talk. Because the line's like, you can't control me with this god dang string or whatever the line was. So we did that about 15 times, I want to say, or if not, it felt like 15 times, which might not sound like a lot, but when you're screaming, like try imagine screaming for 30 minutes straight. Like it's pretty rough on your voice, and not only does your voice get tired, but you just get physically tired. So we did this line however many times, and we finally got one that Alex was happy with. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna sit down because I feel lightheaded and I just need a break right now. So they're like fixing everything. They're like, yeah, sit down, whatever, it's fine. So I sit down, I take my water bottle, because I was like, I really need to hydrate after this because my voice is shredded right now. So I take the water bottle, I'm picking it up, and my hand just shakes like this the entire way to drinking it. And my body I just felt so shaky, and I've never felt that way in my life. So I was just like, I don't know what's happening with my body right now. I'm a little scared, but I don't want to tell them that like I can't do it, because I mean, we were already like, 20 episodes in the series already, so they weren't going to recast me, but I was just like, oh no, I can't tell them because they need to know like I can do it, because maybe they won't work with me again if I can't handle it. And so it was just a whole bunch of like emotions running through my head at the time. But yeah, I almost felt like I could have passed out at that point, and I think I was starting to maybe taste blood. So it was a little scary. I probably should have said something and took a longer break, but I didn't because I'm dumb. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I know now if I had told them I wanted to take a break, they would have been totally cool with it, because they know that people have their limits and you need to take care of your voice and stuff like that. Because if I had blown out my voice, they would have lost like days of recording if I wasn't able to talk. So it's kind of like a group effort on learning how to take care of the actor's voice and stuff like that. And knowing when to take breaks and all that. But yeah, yes.
So when you're recording like the screaming scenes, do you actually scream, or do you kind of like make a kind of screaming sound, but it's more talking?
Oh, yeah. Kind of like phoning it in, right?
Yeah.
Like you think. For Ryuko, I don't want to say that I haven't done that ever in my life, because I probably have, just because.
Like yelling or screaming, which one? Like,
For both of them. For Ryuko in particular, no, I went all out with those. Like, I probably, there's a correct way of screaming, and I don't think I did it the correct way, as far as like taking care of yourself goes, because you're supposed to scream from your diaphragm, and I don't know how to control my diaphragm correctly, so that's probably not good. I should probably actually learn how to do that. But I was screaming like solely from my throat, so it got like this really raw like sound to it when Ryuko would scream, which really worked out, I think, in some of those ending scenes, because she gets pretty primal in a lot of those. But yeah, a lot of the Ryuko screams are very just like full out, like I did the best I could, because I wanted it to sound good and I wanted them to know that I could do it again. But yeah, what's up?
also, do you, like, if there's like something like where you're just screaming constantly, or like it kind of gets like maybe near the end, do they just like slice the good part and like redo it in different clips like together to make a longer scream?
Oh no, that would have sounded awful. Like there's no way to, because it's continuous, like there's no real way to like splice it together if they needed to make it longer. So anytime like maybe the scream was too short or the scream was too long, we'd have to do it over again, just because we needed to match the timing. Because there are certain things that they can squeeze a little bit, but if they squeeze it too much to make it shorter, if they elongate it to make it longer, it'll just sound weird. It'll sound like it's mechanic, and obviously you don't want that, you know, if you can help it. So yeah, they'd make me time it exactly right. What's up?
So I thought I should just tell you what you did with Ryuko was amazing.
Thank you.
Like screams were amazing.
Thanks.
Just everything felt so lifelike. I'm not sure about anyone else who care, if anyone else thinks this way, but I personally want to thank you, because Ryuko, you may have done a lot, but just hearing her scream sounds so realistic, because it just sounds so painful.
It was.
So I just want to thank you. But I am curious. You did Nico, right?
Yes, I did. I did Nico.
I'm curious. Like, how much do you enjoy? Like, is that like something you enjoy doing? Like,
Love Live? Yeah.
yeah, like.
I was a huge fan of Love Live before I even got the audition. I was surprised they even dubbed the show, because it's so heavily based on music that I didn't think it was going to happen. And we ended up not dubbing the songs, which is fine, because if we had to sing, I probably wouldn't have gotten cast. I'm not like an awful singer, but for a high-pitched character specifically, like I'm more of an alto for the stuff that the pitches that I can reach. So yeah, I wouldn't have been in the show if we had to sing. But yeah, I was a huge fan. I played the mobile game, like obsessively. I still play it. And I had just gotten into watching the anime just before I think I had auditioned for the show. And yeah, I was super excited to be in that. And I love Nico. She's probably my third favorite though, to be honest. So yeah, what's up?
May I ask you who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite? Katori.
Which one's Katori? I'm bad with names.
She's the one with the weird hair.
Is she one of the original three?
Yeah,
She's the blonde one that has a bunch of ideas who worked at it as a maid.
Oh, she's not blonde. She's like this, like milk tea colored hair. It's like light brown. But yeah, she's the one that was a maid.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, she's my favorite. She's cute. And then I like Caitlin's character, Maki, is my second favorite.
Maki's the one who made the song, right?
Yeah, she's the one who writes them. She's the redhead.
She's kind of the tsundere of the
Yes, she is. Yeah, I really like her.
Okay. I have to say one thing.
What's up?
When I watch anime, I feel like I really connect to the character.
Yeah? Who do you connect to the most?
Ryuko.
Yeah, you do? I feel like I couldn't see you as Ryuko though. You seem a lot nicer than Ryuko.
I know, but sometimes when I get mad.
When you get mad, you turn into Ryuko when you get mad. Okay. I don't know you that well, so I believe you on that. But I just know not to make you angry, because I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that, knowing how Ryuko is.
Yeah, like where she throws a chair at someone.
Yes, I don't want chairs thrown at me. That's not fun. She does sometimes, yeah. Yes, at the end. What was the most memorable moment I had while recording for Kill la Kill? Man. That's hard to say.
Besides screaming your throat out.
Yeah, exactly. That's always going to be in my memory. It's really hard because I felt like a lot of it was such a blur because I was just like kind of living in the moment and hoping that I wasn't going to get recast because because like I said, it was like one of my first big things, so I was just constantly like, oh my god, am I good enough for this? Is this going to be, good enough? And luckily, I don't mean to like sound like I'm fishing for compliments, but I come to these things and you guys are so supportive and like you tell me how much you love it and how much the characters mean to you and like how much, like I've had people who tell me that they like my performance better than the Japanese, which is a complete like, I love the Japanese performance, like it's amazing. I've met Amiko Shimizu, who does the Japanese voice of Ryuko, and she's super amazing. I have so much respect for her, so for people to say that to me is very flattering, and I don't necessarily believe it, but but it's a very nice like sentiment. Like I totally like appreciate stuff like that. And but yeah, it was a lot of I got a lot of confidence out of working on that show, and that's probably a memorable part of it. It was like me just growing as the character grows, and just growing as a person, growing as an actor. And I've taken a lot of what I've learned from working on Kill la Kill and thrown it into other shows and stuff like that. But I'm trying to think of like, I know we had this one scene that we kept coming back to. It's near the end, and it's after things have kind of calmed down, and I think it's nighttime, and Ryuko and Senketsu are like sitting on a ledge talking to each other about something. And I guess Dave Vincent, who plays Senketsu, had already recorded that scene, and then I came in and recorded it, and Alex Von David, the director, was like, the scene like just isn't really, it's not clicking right, like it's fine, but there's just something missing from it, so we recorded it, and he's like, yeah, okay, I guess this is fine. And then I guess he had Dave record it again, and just something Dave did based off my performance when I had recorded, just kind of like it clicked and it made the scene work so much better. And so the next day I came in, Alex was like, oh my god, we did the scene over with Dave, and like it was just great and it just worked so well. He was so excited, and it was just so funny to see like how much he cared about the show, because I feel like a lot of directors just kind of go, like they don't understand the concept of anime, so they just kind of go through it, and they're like, okay, this works, that's fine. We have a budget, we have a time limit, so we're just gonna stick with this. And it's like, usually it ends up being a serviceable dub, but I feel like Alex Von David's dubs were like some of the best I've worked on, and I've been lucky enough to work with him on, Kill la Kill and Sword Art and Erased. And those are probably some of my favorite projects that I've been a part of. So yeah, just being able to work with him and like better understanding each other by the end of it, because I was so afraid of him when we were working on Kill la Kill. Because I was just like, again, I just wanted to do a good job, and like sometimes it felt like he'd get frustrated, but, and the client was there, and it seemed like she got frustrated a lot, but it was really just because they just wanted Kill la Kill to be amazing, So I get that now, and now that I've worked with them more on projects that, are still just as important as Kill la Kill, but because we understand each other better, like we have a better working relationship, and things just move faster and they click easier. So yeah, it's just working experience, I think, is the most memorable part of it, honestly. Yes, again.
So this might be a weird question. Is there a story with your Twitter handle?
Is there a story with my Twitter handle?
Because you seem too nice to be a tsundere.
You don't know me in person.
That's fair.
You should ask my boyfriend. Yeah, my Twitter handle is Tsunderica. It's a really bad word play on the word tsundere.
It's the best pun.
I know, when I thought of it, I was so proud of myself. But yeah, I just really love the tsundere trope. I just think it's so funny to have like this girl who's just kind of like, whatever, like, it's not like I cared about you or anything, blah, like, that's just so funny to me. So I usually tend to like tsundere characters a lot. Like, I would kind of consider Ryuko tsundere. Nico's kind of a tsundere. I feel like a lot of, some of the other characters I've played have been tsunderes, and I don't know, I just think that's just an endearing trope, just because the way I act around my friends is, I like to, I'm not like super mean, but I like to poke fun at people, you know, when I'm really close to them and I get really comfortable. But I don't like mean anything by it, you know? So it's kind of like that sort of like tsundere-ish thing, but not totally. But yeah, I don't know, I just think it's funny. And I just like really bad puns too, so that's mainly what it's about. Did Satsuki have a question?
So, what is your least favorite trope then?
My least favorite trope? I don't know if there's like an actual name for it. I was actually just talking to somebody about this because I'm in Seven Deadly Sins and I played Deanna in that. And I absolutely hate Mellie Edison Elizabeth because I hate that whole like, oh, I'm the main character and I'm totally perverted and I can do whatever I want. And the main girl is like super submissive and she like doesn't care, you know? Right? I hate that so much and I just can't get behind those two main characters. And it's just lucky that there are other characters in that show that I like a lot better. So that's why I watched it. But just, especially when the main characters are like that and they just kind of like enable each other to do stuff like that, that really bothers me. Because like if I met a person like that in real life, I'd be like, oh my God, get away from me. Like you should be in jail, you know? Like, that's sexual harassment. But yeah, just stuff, I don't know if there's an actual name for that trope, but it's just that very like anime, like hands-on, grabby, whatever thing, and I don't know, I can't really get into that. So, yeah. Yes.
I don't know, I don't remember if you already said this or not, but do you make some of your voices sound similar? Like, of your character voices, do you try to make them sound similar a lot, or
I mean,
you try to mix it up?
It's not something that I like try to do, but like our voices can only do so much. And I'm lucky to where, you know, I have a few different voices in my arsenal, but there are characters that do sound similar. Like Yuki from Sword Art is pretty similar to Nico from Love Live, who's pretty similar to Deanne from Seven Deadly Sins, but because they all have different personalities, that's what makes them different characters. So I probably have like, I don't know, 4 different voices that I kind of cycle through, but that's just, that's how my voice works. Like some people who work a lot, maybe they have other voices, like, what is it? For a while, Steve Bloom, who is here, is an amazing actor. He's been in so many different things. He has so much more of a range than I think people gave him credit for originally when he was first like getting started, I think, or like when people would hear him and stuff when they first started knowing who Steve Bloom was. So people were like, oh, he only does like the smoker voice, like that cool smoker guy sound. But he also did like Guillemon and Digimon, you know, so a lot of it is also just not like what people can do just as, just the way that their voices work, but just a lot of like what is being cast at the time. So like, you know, when I worked on Sword Art Online is around the time that they had started doing Seven Deadly Sins, and actually the same Japanese actress plays Yuki and Deanne. So I think that could have been a possible correlation to where they're like, oh, this is a similar voice, so we're just gonna have her come in and do a similar voice, but the character is just a little bit different, you know? So it's just more of, sometimes it's not always about your choice on the voice, like the casting director kind of maybe has, or the company has an opinion on how a specific character should sound, so that if that's what voice they want you to use, then that they're paying you, and that's the voice you use, you know? But yeah.
Also, would you mind like showing us a few of your voices? Like
a few of them. I'm like getting over a cold right now, so I don't know how good anything's going to be. But what is it? Ryuko is life fiber synchronized Kamui Senkai. Nice, good to look out. That like knocked all the phlegm out of my system. I just need a tissue.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
I've got some
We
tissue.
found a new cold treatment.
Yeah.
Scream for a living.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I was not expecting that to happen. Woo!
savior of cold.
I know, Ryuko is the savior of cold. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm at that stage where like everything's just coming out of my body right now. I'm in a big snot factory. So sorry you had to witness that. If anyone saw anything gross coming out of my mouth.
Now our dreams are broken now that we know that you're a regular human being, just like the rest of us.
I know, darn. Okay, so that was Ryuko with some added snot. And once in a lifetime experience, guys. And this is just because Nico's easy to remember because her catchphrase, Nico, Nico, so there's that. Typical like boy voice is, I never remember any of Gon's lines, but so whenever I just kind of like get into the character, I'm just like, hi, I'm Gon! Like that's just how I get into Gon, because he's like, I'm so happy all the time, oh my gosh, you know? And then like Aladdin from Magi is a little bit higher than that, so he's like, you're the Alibaba whom I love so much! You know, so it's just kind of like, they're all just versions of other characters basically. Because like Ryuko's kind of a just glorified boy voice pretty much, so I can't think of any other characters that might sound a little bit different than that. Oh, there's like, I guess, Sailor Uranus is kind of Ryuko, just a little bit lower, so she's, what's wrong with three girls riding in a car together? It was a totally innocent scene, guys, okay? Just giving her a ride in her convertible. She's 16 and she's driving, it's fine. But yeah, those are pretty much some of the sort of different ones that I do. But yeah, most of them are pretty similar. They're just different attitudes, like I said, Nico is more of like, she's got her personality where she's got like a weird dual personality thing, so most of the time she's kind of like a little snotball, and she's really mean to her friends. But then she has an idol persona where she's like super like happy and like she wants to please her fans and stuff like that. So there's her, and then there's like, you know, Deanne, who's also kind of a brat. I mean, I guess Deanne's probably the most similar to Nico.
Diane's 800 years old.
She is, yeah. But I just mean like voice-wise and like personality-wise, just as far as like being bratty. And there's like Tsubaki is kind of like my typical like Tsubaki from Your Lie in April, which is a very good show if you guys haven't watched it. If you like crying, watch Your Lie in April. So she's just more of like a tomboy, you know, just kind of like really cares for her friend and stuff like that. So yeah, they're all bass. There's like a bass voice, and then you just kind of add layers to that. So yeah. Yeah.
Like the guy who voices Piccolo and Krillin in Dragon Ball Z. He
Yeah.
says how he basically just takes the voice and modifies it a bit. Like
Yeah.
he even showed it.
That's basically what it is, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of just you can take your tissues back inside.
If you need them, you can have them.
I think I'm okay. I
Okay.
think I've got that out of my system. But yeah, it's just layering basically is all it is. You just layer like some characters, you know, they'll be in the same pitch, but if you add a little bit more rasp to it, like if you're a girl, if you add a little more rasp to a voice, then it can turn into like a young boy voice or like just a spunky kid voice and stuff like that. So just practice with your voice pretty much. Yeah, again.
In all of your voice actresses, in all the people you voice acted, do you ship anyone who you voice actresses to anyone?
With other characters?
Yeah, like do you do that?
I don't like actively do it. I usually go more kind of like, if it's apparent in the show, like that's when I'll usually be like, okay, this makes sense to me, like obviously Uranus and Neptune.
That wasn't obvious to me.
No?
I didn't know they were not cousins until fifth season.
Okay, yeah, fair. But I mean, as far as like the dub version that we're doing, like the Viz Media dub, we're doing it true to the Japanese. So yeah, they're in a relationship sort of weird thing. They're like, I don't know, it's hard to describe because they're just kind of like, we're just us, you know. I don't know. I don't know. It's not something I really think about anymore, honestly. I know other people have like their preferred stuff. Like I wouldn't ship Ryuko with anyone just because there was no evidence of any of that, and she's just kind of like her own person, you know, so. I don't think characters need to be shipped, is the thing, you know, so. Unless it's an obvious ship, Like, I'm okay with other people doing it. Like, I have a ship for Kill la Kill. I like Mako Gamagori.
Yeah!
But like, I can't think of, like, when people are like, who would you ship Ryuko with? Like, if people, some people do Ryuko Mako, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I like Mako Gamagori, so. Yeah, I can't think of anyone like I ship Ryuko with, or.
What about Diane?
Oh, obviously King, yeah, that one's an obvious one, I feel like. Even though she doesn't, like, reciprocate his
Actually,
feelings.
she does. She just doesn't remember it.
That's true, yeah.
It was because King erased her memories, and she actually does start remembering them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
animated
That's
show, but
true.
after the fight, she tells Bond, like Bond and King actually talk with in the fairy forest that
Yeah.
she told me that she remembers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I forget about that sometimes. Yes, in the glove. You, looking back, yeah.
Out of all of those roles that you voice acted, which one has been your favorite?
Oh gosh, that's always such a hard question because I voice so many cool characters, and it's like picking children. So it's hard to choose just one. I feel like they all have different things that I really like about them. Yeah, because I can't think of any characters that I just really disliked. And I just, in general, I just have a hard time picking favorites with anything. Like, if you ask me what my favorite ice cream was, it's going to change every week, you know, depending on how I feel. I don't know. I feel like right now, I'll just give you like a right now answer, because like I said, it just changes all the time just based on how I feel and what I might be playing or watching at the time. So right now well, when I'm not playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, I'm playing Tales of Berseria, and I like that one meant a lot to me, playing Eleanor in that game, because I love the Tales series. Like, one of my favorite games ever is Tales of the Abyss. So just being a part of that series was very emotional for me. Like, that recording process was, I almost cried a few times, if I didn't just actually cry. Yeah, because when I got the audition, I was just like in tears, because I was like, oh my god, this is so exciting. I found, like, this is what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to even just audition for a character in this game, like, that's just one of the goals, like the little tiny goals that I had in my career. So I finally got to do that, and then when I got cast, I cried. When I went in to record, I had to try not to cry. But during the last session, when we're doing like the attack callouts, because some of her attack callouts are similar to some of the other characters that I remember playing with when I played Tales of the Abyss and some of the other Tales games. So like, I had to, during our break, I was like, I need to go to the bathroom, and I just kind of like, I had to like breathe really hard to stop myself from crying. So yeah, I still get emotional about some of that stuff, because it's still like, I don't know, it's just, I've been doing it for, you know, a few years now, the voiceover thing. But I don't know, I just feel so lucky that I'm able to do something as cool as I do. And being a fan of the genre that I, like anime and video games and stuff, it's just overwhelming sometimes, you know? So, yeah. And I'm gonna go with Eleanor for this con. Yes.
Good.
I don't even know who's talking.
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody at me?
I am now.
Okay. So, were there any like characters, since you like watch anime and play video games, were there any characters that you always wanted to like voice cast as, or?
I feel like when I was starting, I had watched Magi before the auditions went out, and I was like, I want to get in with the studio because I want to be Aladdin. And it just kind of, like, I would have been happy to be anyone, but I was like, it would be cool if I could be Aladdin. So that was one. As far as the characters that haven't been voiced yet, like, though, I don't know. Because there are characters that I really like in shows, but I'm like, I wouldn't be a good fit for that. You know, I think so-and-so would be a good fit. I would have loved to be in the Gintama dub, because I loved Gintama, but they're doing that in Canada, so I can't legally work in Canada, because different, you know, working laws and stuff like that. Yeah, I can't think of specific characters, but like there are definitely franchises I wish I could be in. Like Tales was one of them. I'd love to be in a Persona game. I love Persona. Final Fantasy. I love to be anything in that. Would have been cool to be in Zelda. Yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, it's mainly only like series that I can think of. Yeah, it's good question though. You guys are like giving me like really like hard questions that I really have to think about. Yes.
Could you talk about maybe working on Yuki from Sword Art?
From Sword Art, can I talk about that? Yeah, I can. Yeah, Yuki is not around for a very long time. Spoilers. So I didn't say how, but or what happened. Like something good could have happened, something bad could have happened. But yeah, I like to say that I did my Sword Art time with Yuki, because Sword Art is one of those shows that it's like, I get the appeal of it, and I really liked the first half of the first season, and then after the fairy dance arc, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop watching this now. This is getting a little weird. And then I tried again for Gun Gale Online, and I was like, okay, Xenon's really cool. And then fan service happened, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And then I got the audition for Yuki, and I heard a lot about Yuki because it was like kind of a controversial thing at the time, just because of her. I don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it, but there's something about her that is just, a lot of people just didn't agree with how they handled it or something like that, or just what it was in general. So I was like, okay, I've heard a lot about her, so I may as well like watch it for research since it was already out. So I watched it, and I got so emotional about it, and she was, you know, for her being in 6 episodes in the last half of the second season, like I felt so attached to her. So when I auditioned and got cast, I actually watched it again and like still got really emotional about it. And I really just, I grew to really love her, and that arc, that Mother's Rosario arc could have been Sword Art, and I would have been totally okay with it. Like that just could have been that 6 episode arc, could have been the entire series, and I would have been like, yeah, Sword Art's great. Sword Art's amazing. I love Sword Art. But for the recording for her last like big scene, I had specifically requested that everybody else record first, because I wanted to feel the same emotion that I felt from the Japanese by being able to hear everybody. So they did that for me, and they recorded everybody, and then they played it back for me when I got into my session. And also, this is like the only time that this has ever happened, and probably the last time this is ever going to happen, but I actually, because of the way that the scene's laid out at the end for Yuki, they actually had me recording in a reclining chair similar to this one. So I'm just like, I got to, it actually leaned back further than this, but I got to record like this, which is unheard of, because usually they're like, you need to like stand and like, you know, maybe sit, but we prefer you to stand. But I got to lay down for this session because she's laying in the grass in this scene. And they just wanted like a really like weak sound. So the director, Alex, was like, let's try this and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, we can go back to normal. But it actually worked out pretty well. So I'm reclining the entire time we're recording that scene, and they played it back for me with everybody in, and I got emotional, which was good. This is what I wanted. So then we went back and we started recording, and I, like, the tears are real, like when I'm recording that. I think there was one spot where we had to go back just because Alex wanted to fix it, and I had already cried so much at that point, and he's like, let's take a break. Do you want to take a break? We should take a break. And I'm like, no, I just want to like keep this going. Like if I stop now, I'm not going to be able to feel the same way because it's going to take longer. But he insisted we took a break, and I was like, oh, come on. So we get back, and sure enough, like I'm not able to like get the tears back. So there's one like little section of it that I can tell is not me crying. So I'm like, oh man, I really wish that he would have just kept the old one, or like we could have just kept going. But yeah, so there was just a lot of, basically my experience with it was just a lot of crying. So and getting to see it on Toonami when that aired was really cool, because my main goal for that was, when I watched it back in English, I wanted to make myself cry. And I don't know if it's like particularly just myself, but like it was probably a combination of everybody, just because everybody's performance in that last episode is just so amazing. Like, and I know some of these people now, so hearing them cry, I feel like when I hear people that I know cry, when I hear people I know personally cry, I get really upset. Because you can, if they're using their like same voice that they use normally, and that's just, it just like, oh man, that's Jeremy crying, she's really crying about something, and that just makes me upset. And I heard some other stories too about some of the other actresses, like Erica Mendez, who plays Nori, she's one of the Sleeping Knights. I guess like her dog had died the week of recording, so that's kind of like where her stuff came from. And then Jeremy's aunt had just passed away, I think. So like hearing that stuff, like especially made me really sad. Like I didn't have anything like that happen to me. It was just like, oh man, I watched this anime scene and it was really sad, so it made me cry. That wasn't like my crying motivation, but just like knowing all that stuff and hearing everybody else made me cry too. So yeah, watching Tsunami, I made myself cry, and it was good. And I got a lot of messages where people, I still get messages where people are like, oh man, you made me cry. And I'm like, yeah, good. I mean, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, but yay.
I cried.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I feel like no matter what you watch that scene in, it's so sad. Like, oh, that character's so great. Let's go with the glove again.
Since you are now have been like voice acting for a couple of years now, do you ever like watch like an anime or video game or even like an actual like show like that has voice acting in? And have you ever like maybe like kind of noticed or like what techniques they might be using or like what they're doing? Like, oh, that person must be doing this, or oh, that person's doing this, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I feel like every once in a while I'll think about that stuff, but usually I see, my thing is like, if I can just be engrossed in a performance in a show and not have to think about that stuff, that's when I personally feel like it's a good performance. It's the same for like myself too. When I hear myself and I'm not like critiquing the heck out of myself, then that's when I know like, oh, I feel like I did a good job in that, or like, you know, or I could have done this differently or whatever. So when I stop thinking about that, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But actually, I was just talking about this with some people, I think a few days ago, about how, I don't know if anybody's seen that Hugh Jackman clip where he's doing like some recording for Logan, and he's like in a studio and he's watching, he's basically dubbing. He's doing ADR, just kind of like Foley stuff to, because usually when they do like big running scenes or like big loud scenes in movies, they have to usually re-record that. They'll either get the actual actor or like a stand-in actor that sounds similar to them, because the actual audio is just too muddled, so they have to get it over again to make it movie quality sound. So we were talking about that, and we were like, oh man, you know, everybody thought that scene was so cool, but if he was actually recording that, him fuddling with his headphones would have made so much noise. Like, they wouldn't have been able to keep that audio, because, you know, he's like moving around a lot, and his headphones are falling off, and he has to adjust them, and so that stuff makes sound, you know? And it's gonna catch on the mic because mics are really sensitive. So I notice more stuff like that, and like I can hear in movies when they had to re-record the audio because it just sounds different, and I'm more sensitive to that now. Like I never used to realize that stuff before. Or like in video games, like sometimes I mentioned stuff about like slowing stuff down and speeding stuff up for time. Like if I can hear that, then I'm like, oh, somebody didn't keep with the timing correctly and they had to like digitally do it. But yeah, I notice stuff like that more so often than like grabbing techniques from people, I think. But that I probably should pay more attention to that, because there are definitely some things that people do that I'm like, oh man, you know, I wish I could do that. But I don't think about like the process of how it's done. Unless it's like, because I'm not very good at laughing on cue for dubbing, so I've asked people like, how do you do that? And they're like, oh, that's not really something like you can teach. It's just something you just kind of do and you practice. So yeah, I feel like anytime I have asked people about stuff like that, just kind of trying to figure out how to do different things for my own personal benefit, I'm usually met with like, yeah, I don't know, I just kind of do it, you know. So, but yeah, that's a good question though, I like that. Did you have the last question? You in the front, yeah.
Yeah, I actually, this is more of a fact, but when I was watching Sword Art Online 2, the sub version, I specifically did not watch the final episode because I knew where this was going and I didn't want to cry. You were the one, the dub was the one where I actually sucked up and like, fine, I'll watch this episode.
Oh yeah, it's so sad.
I am also wondering, are there any special animes or like shows that you've seen recently that if they do a dub, or have you seen shows that haven't done dubs, they ever do a dub, would you ever really want to?
I mean, I like working, so I'd love to do it.
I mean, like, was there a special character that you thought like, oh, I really like to dub? Like, have you ever seen a sub thing that's not dubbed, or like, just
I feel like I usually don't have time to watch a lot of the new shows because, I mean, there's like 15 new anime every season. And there's like 4 seasons in an anime season, so it's really hard to keep up with a lot of the stuff, so I haven't watched. I think the last show I really liked that I actually haven't finished was Orange. Was really good because it kind of reminded me of Your Lie in April, but they obviously did that in Texas. So that one was cool. But I can't think of, because I haven't been watching any, I can't think of any specifically, but whenever people ask me, like, what would you have wanted to be a part of, if you could, I usually say, because one of my favorite anime ever is Fruits Basket.
Yeah!
Again, I really like that, the slice of life genre. If they remade Fruits Basket kind of like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood style to where it followed the manga more closely, like I'd love to be anything in that just because I love the series so much.
Cool.
Yeah. How much more time is this?
4 minutes.
Okay, you'll be the last question then.
Have you ever like watched anime or played a video game where like you see a voice acting job and you're like, oh, that was lazy voice acting, or like, oh, that person didn't give it their all or something?
I feel like it's less of that and more of, I feel like people get miscast a lot, and I feel like, I've definitely been miscast a lot, but it kind of comes down to that whole thing, or I don't want to say a lot, like, because, I don't know, I really like a lot of my characters, so I wouldn't have wanted anybody else to play them. But it comes down to, again, people just wanting to get stuff done efficiently, so I don't necessarily blame people for maybe what people might consider shoddy acting jobs, because I know how it works, and we do a lot in very little time, and we don't get paid a lot. So it's more of like you kind of have to like what you're doing kind of thing. So if like maybe weird performances come out every so often, like even I'm like, oh man, I could have done better in this thing if we had more time, if they had like given me a few more takes, I could have really gotten that. But because it takes, we get it done so fast, like I don't really blame anybody for most of the things that I may have issues with in games and stuff. But yeah, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, so I don't want to say specifics here. But I mean, yeah, sure, I've played games and watched shows where I'm like, it could have been somebody else, it could have been me. No, I never think it could have been me. But I can think, I mean, if I had been offered, sure. But there's definitely like a handful of people that I'm like, oh man, it would have been cool if like this friend could have been it, because I think they would have done a really good job instead of this other person or whatever, who maybe just wasn't right for the character or got directed in a weird way and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a very loaded question, thank you. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I have an autograph session with Kieran Strange and Caitlin Glass at 2:30 to 3:30, and then I'm also doing Grego's game show. We're playing Password with Caitlin Glass at 8:30 for today. Yeah, thanks so much, guys.